So, Sadiq, if you go online and you think about those words about broiling social tensions and Britain becoming a basket case, London is very often used as the prime example. Now, I walk around London, I feel safe most of the time. Maybe I'm just terribly lucky, but it doesn't seem to me to be a fair representation of the real city that we live in. How can you win that argument online and around the world?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, one homicide is one death too many, one violent crime is one victim too many. But the progress we've shown with the release of these latest results shows that London is, on any objective criteria, one of the, if not the safest global cities in the world. And I'm disappointed by Nadeem. I've known Nadeem since the mid 1990s. Both of us were baby councillors in Wandsworth. He was a very young Conservative councillor. I was a slightly younger Labour councillor. And what you're seeing are politicians and commentators, spamming social media feeds with this distortion and this untruth about London. And they're playing on the Donald Trump, J.D. Vance playbook. Look, if you're a nativist, if you've got a certain way of thinking, and you've got a city that is liberal, that is progressive, that is diverse, and that is incredibly successful, with the antithesis of all they believe in. And my concern is this, Andrew: you valiantly, regularly, talk up London, as indeed I do. But for those that have never been to London, for those whose only view of London is formed by reading a tweet from Elon Musk, or seen something President Trump has said, or Nigel Farage, or dare I say it, Nadeem Zahawi, you may mistakenly think that London isn't this great city that we know it to be.
And why do you think your old mucker Nadeem has joined this bandwagon?
I'm genuinely surprised. I very rarely get surprised. And so Nadeem and I go back a long way. I respect him and like him. I call him a friend. Both of us became members of parliament in 2005. And he's a tribal Tory. I mean, he's as tribal Tory as I'm tribal Labour. And that's a compliment, by the way, not a criticism. Incredibly popular amongst the Conservative Parliamentary Party. He was a very effective vaccines minister. When Matt Hancock was a very tribal Tory health secretary, didn't want to work with me as the mayor, Nadeem, as soon as he became the minister, picked the phone and we worked together to get the vaccines out, to address the issue of hesitancy amongst certain communities. And I'm surprised. I was surprised when I saw the press conference today. It's for Nadeem to explain why he's left the party that he loves. I mean, his mentor is Jeffrey Archer, who stuck with the Tories through thick and thin. So I'm genuinely surprised.
Let me look at the good and the bad in recent London numbers. The good you've alluded to already, which is what's happened to violent crime, and in particular to homicides among teenagers and young people, which is, I think, down to the lowest since for 30 years or so. It's a real achievement, even if bag snatching and shoplifting and phone snatching are still a real problem. In terms of violent crime, how has this been turned round?
Well, firstly, I will come to those issues that you referred to as still being a problem. What we've had over the last 9 years is a sustained focus on a public health approach towards serious violent crime, being tough on crime, on enforcement, supporting the police, doubling the investment from City Hall. So they are dismantling serious criminal groups. They are disrupting county and drug lines, precision manhunt surveillance, but also being tough on the complex causes of crime, prevention and early intervention. We're funding youth clubs, youth workers, after-school clubs, mentors, tackling exclusion, tackling absenteeism. We set up the country's first violence reduction unit in 2019. We have 3 times fewer the number of young people killed. But the thing I'm really proud of is 44% fewer young people going to hospital with a knife injury. And by putting youth workers in custody suites, we've reduced reoffending of young people by 80% within the first 12 months. By putting youth workers in hospitals, we've reduced harm by 3/4. But you're right to challenge me in relation to mobile phone thefts, in relation to luxury watches and handbags. And one of the reasons why we're now focusing on town centres, focusing on the West End, focusing on working with shopkeepers to deal with the issue of shoplifting, is this sort of high volume crime causes people to be scared. And the good news, The most recent figures show a 15% reduction in personal robbery and a 25% reduction in thefts. I'm not complacent. I'm still not happy. We're going to make more progress.
Well, there's one area where there clearly has been progress. Let me ask you about an area where there hasn't been enough progress, which is housing. I mean, housing starts last year, I think 5,000 across all of London. That is, I think, 5.7% of what's needed. It's pretty pathetic. What are you doing about that?
I think housing is the biggest structural issue facing the capital city. Uh, Up until the pandemic, we'd made great progress. Up until the pandemic, we had more completions in London in my first 4 years than any time since the 1930s. We'd begun building more council homes than at any time since the 1970s. But we've had a number of issues that I call a perfect storm affecting the housing sector across the country, and London's not excluded. I'll give you some examples, then I'll come to the solutions, how we're addressing them. The cost of concrete up by 54%. The cost of steel up by 50%. We've got to put in a second staircase now on tall buildings because of scarcity of space. A lot of our buildings are tall. The previous government brought in a building safety regulator, which causes huge delay in relation to tall buildings. And so we've got a number of challenges facing housing. How we're responding to that is I want to give credit to the government. Both Angela Rayner and Steve Reed have worked with me and the sector to address these problems. So for a temporary short-term period of time, we're introducing emergency measures to help house builders really get going in London. We've relaxed the requirements around genuinely affordable homes. We're going to be building on poor quality, badly maintained green belt. We'll be increasing the grants we give to developers and working with them and councils to kickstart house building in London. I really worry about not just bus drivers, porters, and junior teachers being priced out of London, but police officers, head teachers, skilled workers with a higher salary being priced out too.
It's a really huge area. Let me ask you about one area where, again, you come under a lot of criticism from all sorts of people, which is the speed of traffic in London. 9 miles an hour on average. It's the slowest major city almost anywhere in the world, and it's getting worse. And, you know, you go around endless roadworks, endless diversions. Do you have somebody whose job is to keep the traffic flowing? And if so, why are they still in their job?
Well, the issue of congestion is a serious issue, not just for those in cars or taxis, but also those in buses. If you're on a bus and you're stuck in traffic, you're less likely to use a bus again. That's a problem for us because we want to encourage people to use public transport. So we're addressing this issue, doing a number of things. One of the big gripes when you speak to a bus driver or a taxi driver is the roads being dug up. It could be gasworks, it could be waterworks, it could be electricity.
Can I just jump in there? Very often it's yet more cycleways, producing huge numbers of cycleways with nobody on them. And the traffic slowing down in both directions further.
I'll deal with a massive increase in cycling shortly. And so what we're doing is we've got lane rentals on major roads. So if you want to dig up the road, you pay a huge fee. So you're incentivized to do it quickly, but also you speak to the other utilities to do it all at once, a one dig approach. In relation to the cycle lanes, all the evidence is actually by us increasing fivefold the amount of safe cycling, we've massively increased the number of people cycling. You think about the number of people who can be in a car at maximum, the space it takes. You compare that with the number of cyclists in London. We've had a massive increase in people who are cycling, and we're addressing the issue of congestion on our roads as well.
I could talk all day about this, but we don't have time for all day. Let me ask you about your kind of, as it were, feud with Donald Trump. Both sides firing off fairly heavy artillery. Now, Elon Musk, his great supporter and demonstrator, is in trouble with the government around Grok and this AI ability to undress and pornography people. And at the same time, the opposition are talking about the idea of banning social media for everybody aged under 16. As somebody responsible for so many Londoners and young Londoners, what's your view?
Well, I think in general terms, social media, innovation are a source for good. I love social media. The problem with social media is the lack of regulation, the lack of guardrails. And when Elon Musk took over Twitter, became X, he sacked a lot of the human beings whose job it was to provide checks and balances and change the algorithm. I think what our government's got to do is look at better regulation and providing certainty. The Online Safety Act is a start, and we now have Ofcom, who are a regulator. We've got to see whether Ofcom have real teeth in relation to how they investigate X and the use of AI. But here's the real worry I have: social media, needs regulation. What about AI? Artificial intelligence, and this latest example is just one vignette of the downsides of AI that's properly regulated. And that's, I think, a canary in the mine for us. We've got to use this as an example.
Couldn't agree more. Sorry to jump in again. Couldn't agree more. But what about the use of social media by young people generally, some of it very toxic? Kemi Badenoch has suggested a complete ban below the age of 16, as the Australians are doing. And across the country, that is very, very popular. Isn't it the kind of thing a Labour government should be doing?
Well, as a parent, I went through this when my kids were teenagers. It's a nightmare deciding what is the right age to give your child a phone. Should it be a brick phone, or should it be one where you can access the internet? What do you do when all their mates are using social media? I'm looking with interest at what Australia is doing, but I think we should be looking more at in immediate terms, the issue of age verification. Should there be some apps you've got to prove your age before you can use? Should you limit the time the young person goes on the phone? The advantage of Australia going first is we can see the pros and cons of the legality of those below the age of 60 to be able to access social media.
So Sadiq Khan, thanks very much indeed for talking to LBC tonight.
Always a pleasure. Thanks, Andrew.